Welcome to the 2022 Golf Summer Series race number 20. Today we're here at the 8 Bowl Superspeedway for the running of the USAA American Heroes 350. With only 3 races remaining, we come to this fan-favorite 8-shaped track as 38 superstars and teams prepare for our final Golf Summer Series Superspeedway race. But before we get started, let's take a look at our starting lineup. So on the pole is the 20 of Nick Sant and Exzel 2 of David Johnson. Row 2 is the 1 of RC Gamer and Exzel 9 of Lipsy, fresh off his Minnesota win. Row 3, current point leader Matthew Burnett and Exzel 28 of Gaming Freak. Row 4, Caleb Rills and Owen Miles. Row 5, Kyle Salmon and Joe T. Row 6, Brendan Beal and Random J. Row 7 is Boobman the 80 and the 90 of Matthew Hill. Row 8, Keisha Urchison and Firecracker 400 winner Richard Herman. Row 9, we got the Nathans and Nathan Stapleton and Nathan Baird. Row 10, Noah Clifton and Dan McMarola. Row 11, this Powwow in the 7 and Jordan Flores in the 61, who came to this race third in the point standings. Row 12, defending series champion Hoodlum and Ryan Wilson, of course, came to this race second in the point standings. Row 13, another driver inside the top 5 in points, Bradley Reim and Xavier in the 33. Row 14, 2020 winner of this race, Brittany Carruthers and Johnny Hernandez in the 46. Row 15, Alex Cass Stevens and Aiden Robertson. Row 16, Andrew Williams and Roberto Crown. Row 17, Ryan Robertson in the 42, and the winner of this race last year, Trey Smith in the 22. Row 18, Kellen Baker and Dan Matteillo. And finally, in row number 19, Ross McBrow in the 10, and Exzel Jordan Stout in the 11, who of course won our first Super Speeder event this year at Armory Digital. And now it is time for our starting command here at 8 Bowl.
Drivers, start your engines!
Let's take a look at the track info here for today's race. So we're going to go 30 laps on this 2.5 mile long 8-shaped super speedway with 31 degrees of banking in the corners. And as for here today in 8 Bowl, 84 degrees Fahrenheit with 5 mile wind towards the southeast. And there's here our past 2 winners here, Brendan Carruthers in 2020 and Trey Smith last year in 2021. Hope everyone's having a good day here so far. I just want to thank everyone for supporting the Golf Summer Series despite all the delays and many setbacks we've had in this final season. Really truly means the world to me that all of you are still watching and remaining loyal and enjoying these videos. But for now, it's just about time to start our final Golf Summer Series Super Speedway event as the pace car comes down pit road as Nick Sant and David Johnson lead the field to green here at 8 Bowl. You always see some drivers going 3 wide towards the middle and back of the pack, like Matthew Hill, Richard Herman, among others, as we go into turn number 2. Behind the 20, you see the 1 of RC Gamer alongside points leader Matthew Burnett, as the both of them making their way inside this picture, with RC now right behind the back bumper of the 20 as to come off turn number 2. Into turn number 3, you see some drivers shifting lanes, and now RC and Caleb Rose are the lead 2 drivers on the inside, as Nick Sant and Burnett continue to lose ground on the outside. Also on the inside, you see some other drivers as well, like David Johnson the 2, Lipsy the 9, as well as Gaming Creek at the 28 there briefly. Coming off turn number 4 this time by, see Rose and RC come to the outside the block to 20 as RC immediately comes back down to the inside. They're going to be side by side. Coming to lap number 1 of RC barely leading that time by. But into turns 1 and 2, those 2 remain side by side for the lead as their through racing pitches 4 wide behind the leaders. Rose had the advantage going into turn number 2. It fell from Matthew Burnett as RC is going to fall back on the outside. You'll see Kyle Salmon to 30 as well as Random J in the 53 also making a way up towards the inside. As on the back straight away, you see Rose and Burnett moving to the outside before Rose changes lanes again into turn number 3 as Burnett remains on the inside. Rose will tuck and right in front of Salmon as the outside lane moves to the middle. As on the inside, here comes a great run from the Chevys as they're going to turn number 4 as the 13 continues to maintain his lead. Off of 4, see RC looking to the outside of the 13, but Burnett continues to hang on as they come to lap number 3 this time by. Of course, going into this race, Burnett was your championship leader, had only a 2-point lead over Ryan Wilson, and this one extra bonus point for winning that lap could possibly go a long way, as you only have 3 races remaining in this final Golf Summer Series season. But of course, it's still very, very early in this race, and just about anything you can possibly think of still has the potential to happen here today. In the turn number 3 now, Burnett's going to move to the outside in front of RC. He tries to block the 1 car that time by, but on the inside, here comes the 20 and 19 with great runs into turns 3 and 4, as they both get help from the 24 Keyshawn Richardson. Brendan Beal in the 16, Salmon as Rose west of the inside will continue to march forward, as the rest of the middle continues to lose ground. Off of 4 is Nixon moving up in front of the 13 as he vacates the inside lane, with Burnett peeking his nose to the inside of the 20 car, as Nixon comes to lead lap number 3. You saw Caleb Rose there going way up high on the outside as he'll continue to lose ground after going 4 wide. As your top 3 of Nick, Sam, Burnett, and Random continue to lead the way down the back straightaway. In the 3, Nick, Sam, Rose, Random move to the outside as both Burnett and now Owen Miles are going to get great runs on the inside going into turn number 4. Of course, Miles won a last Super Speedway race at Orlando just a few races ago, as he looks to become only the 2nd driver in GSS history to win back-to-back Super Speedways, as he now tries to go for the lead on Matt for Burnett as you come to lap number 5. On border for Owen Miles in the turn number 1 as we remain side by side with Burnett for the lead, as the 37 is help from Nick sent behind on the inside. In the turn number 2, the inside is going to once again prevail, as Owen Miles will clear Burnett for the lead, with Nick sent back up to 2nd place. Down the back straight, you can see both Miles and Nixon moved up in front of the 13. As in the turn number 3, Nixon's going to remain in front of the 13, but the 37 Miles blocks the 1 of RC, as they're going to be side by side for the lead. And much like the last time through turns 3 and 4, the inside is going to once again prevail, with Nixon back once again in the lead, with Burnett in 2nd and Salmon side by side for 3rd. Off of 4 is going to be Nixon and Burnett blocking the 38 there briefly before immediately moving back down to the inside in front of Random, as Nixon will once again lead lap number 5. You saw that time by there how small the uppermost outside lane is, as the 2 lead drivers of Xavier and Aiden Robinson are struggling to make up any ground so far. Meanwhile, coming off turn number 2, Nixon remains your leader, as off of turn number 2, he's going to move up to the outside in front of Owen Miles. As we go into turn number 3, he remains in front of the 38 before immediately moving back down to the inside in front of Owen Miles as he leaves Salmon on the outside lane to drive. Going into this race, Nick Sant was 6th in the point standings, gained 2 positions after our last race at Minnesota as he looks for a 2nd GSS win of the season after getting his first earlier this year at Montreal. And so far today, that 20 car has been the class of the field as he, of course, won the pole, has won the most lap shares so far. But into turn number 1, here's Owen Miles once again side by side for the lead. And behind the 37 you see our past 2 Random J Series champions of Put 'em in the 88 car, as well as Keyshawn Richardson in the 24, who of course won our HRL championship back earlier this year in February. Down the back straight, Richardson's going to move to the middle in front of Kyle Salmon as both him and Miles going to move to the outside into turn number 3 as Holden remains on the inside as he's going to be side by side for the lead. We're once again side by side for the lead with Hood'em having the advantage on the inside over Miles as here's Burnett shoving the 20 car as those two as Rose west the inside lane catch up to Hood'em. Coming to lap number 8 this time, it's going to be Hood'em trying to block the 20 car on the outside before moving back down to the inside as Hood'em barely leads this time by. But it's not over yet as here's Nixon once again side by side for the lead into turn number 1 as we're nearly 4 wide behind. Into turn number 2, despite Hood'em having help in the middle from Miles, the inside is going to once again prevail as despite having almost no help at all until now, Nixon once again takes the lead. Going into turn number 3, Nixon once again moves to the outside as here's Salmon and Hoodlum rocking to pass by the 20 cars. Richard Herman remains 3 wide behind. And it appears that Herman will pick up Nixon in the middle as the inside once again will prevail going into turn number 4 this time by. Off of 4, you see Hoodlum peeking his nose to the outside of Salmon as the 38 car remains in the middle as it comes to block the 88 car coming to lap number 9 before moving back down to the inside as we're on board the 38 car into turn number 1 here. And you can see there Hold'em pretty much immediately falling back in the middle as he's hoping to get picked up by the 16 of Beal, as well as how small the uppermost outside lane is with, I believe, David Johnson, Miles' teammate, the lead driver in that lane. In the 3 is going to be Miles who will stay on the inside this time, with Salmon remaining in the middle as this 37 is up for Richard Herman in the 95. Bowden in the 88 car also follows suit, as well as Brendan Beal, as Owen Miles in the turn number 4 have the advantage over Kyle Salmon. Coming off 4, Herman tried to look to the outside of Miles, but the 37 quickly comes to block. It's going to lap number 10 of Owen Miles, now your new leader. And the 1 will once again 4 wide with Fulham way up high in the racetrack, as well as Nixon and Beal being door-to-door in the middle. But continuing into turn number 2, Moses inside the lane is actually pulling away from the rest of the field, with Miles still the leader and Herman and Salmon in tow. In the 3, here comes Herman side by side of Miles for the lead as the 37 moves to the outside. In front of Rob goes in Matteillo in the 17. Lipsy, Bradley, Reim, Roberto, Crowd, and others are involved as we're under caution for the first time here today. And I can already point to the 2 most notable drivers that were involved in this, the 9 of Lipsy and especially the 6 of Bradley Reim, who of course was on a top 5 streak these past several races, which propelled him back inside the top 5 in points and inside the championship picture. But now, as Bradley pulls away from the wreckage, this may just be the end of Bradley Reim's championship's hopes here in the final Golf Summer Series season. Also other drivers involved, the 97 of Nathan Stapleton, the 10 of Rosberg Barola, as well as Johnny Hernandez in the 46. As we come back up front, you see Richard Herman in the 95 that time by was your leader, with Kyle Salmon in the 2nd and Keisha Ernst in the 24 and 3rd. But anyways, let's take a look at the instant replay to see what caused our first caution so far here today at 8 Bowl. So I'll just start in the back straightaway going into turn number 3. Watch the 6 of Bradley Reim as he's currently 4 wide of Clifton Hill as well as Roberto Crown. So Clifton and Bradley touch, and then he gets into 4s, which sent Bradley around, turned to 17. And which is pretty much all chaos from there, with 3 of the 5 Railfan drivers getting involved in that one. Take a look at this from a better angle. You can see, Bradley made contact with Crown, which sent the 31 into the wall. Then Bradley also made contact with Jordan Forbes, and then finally also made contact with his teammate Lipsy, which sent the 6 car into the 31, with Lipsy having nowhere to go, as well as Nathan Stapleton, as Ross McMurray on the apron there did a great job of avoiding the spinning car of Nathan Stapleton on the apron. Let's go on board with Bradley Reim here. And yep, much like our past Super Speedway races, this was yet another massive chain reaction that all stemmed from just a little bit of contact. Let's go on board with Johnny Hernandez here. So he was able to mostly avoid it. It was pretty much on the brakes there immediately, albeit he was on the wall the entire time there. Anyways, under caution for the first time here today at 8 Bowl for this wreck into turn number 3. We'll be right back with you guys after this. Welcome back to the Golf Summer Series here at 8 Bowl. We're about to go back green after a multi-car incident in turn number 3 involving several Railfan drivers, including the 17 of Dan Matteillo, as well as 2 Railfan drivers in the top 10 in points of Lipsy in the 9 and Bradley Reim in the 6. Currently looks like the only driver that is out of this race is the 54 of Aiden Robertson, who was also involved in the accident. Well, it appears that Dan Matteillo is still racing, albeit 1 lap down. Currently top 3 is the 95 Richard Herman, who of course won the Firecracker 400 back in July, with Kyle Salmon the 38 and ACW champion Keisha Ernst running off the rest of the top 3. Anyways, pace cars are down pit road as the field comes back to the green flag here at 8 Bowl. You saw Keisha Ernst briefly touching that yellow line into turns 1 and 2. As the 24 stays tucked in right behind the 95, as the inside is going to once again prevail into turn number 2 this time by. Meanwhile, Keisha's teammate Random Junior 53 is also right behind, as well as the 42 of Riot Roberts to come off turn number 2 this time by. And as soon as I say that, Roberts is going to get forced to the middle 3 wide between 2 Fords as Herman moves to the middle into turn number 3. Here comes Keisha Archin for the lead as they're 4 wide behind, with Random and Roberts losing ground on the outside. And once again on the inside, here comes the 20 of Nixon as he's going to tuck in right behind the 24 into turn number 4. Off of 4 with Nixon and Richard come up to block Herman on the outside before Richard moves back to the inside immediately as we're once again side by side for the lead coming to lap number 16. The pack is once again 4 wide into turn number 1 as Nixon and Richard remain side by side for the lead. Behind the 95 is the 37 of Owen Miles as well as the 42 of Robert sneaking back into this picture as once again into turn number 2 is Nixon back to the point here at 8 Bowl. Herman was all over the back row of that 20 car into turn number 3 before Nixon once again stays committed to the inside, leaving Herman to dry on the outside as Miles and Richardson are right in tow once again. Off of 4, your entire top 4 is going to come up to block the 95 over Nixon immediately goes back down to the inside, so 3 wide coming to lap number 17. Into turn number 1, both Miles and Nixon have no help in their respective lanes as the inside is all lined up with the 24 Richardson leading the charge. Unfortunately for Miles into turn number 2, the middle is fast approaching. Varsity Gamer and David Johnson, the 2 lead drivers there. We saw Richardson move to the outside into turn number 3 as he's now going to be side by side with Gaming Freak for the lead. Richard Herman once again right behind in tow. And we shall continue to turns 3 and 4. Richardson's going to join that middle line with Roberts and Salmon, the 2 lead drivers, as Gaming Creek, Herman, and Miles are your new top 3. Off of 4, your top 4 is going to once again move to the outside before Miles and Gaming Creek change their mind. As we come to lap number 18 this time by, it's time for another edition of Golf Summer Series Crank It Up. Lap number 23.30 as we're through ride once again for the lead with Miles on the inside, Nixon in the middle, and RC all alone on the outside. And we'll check into turn number 2 as RC continues to fall back. Oh, and Miles once again will rocket to the lead, while Nixon is going to get help in the 16 and Beal. On board of Kellen Baker as you come off turn number 2 this time by. Looks like Baker's going to tuck it right behind the 23 going into turn number 3, where the 2020 champ also is right Roberts also behind. As the field remains 3 wide behind as Baker tried to move to the inside behind Beal, but instead made it 4 wide once again going into turn number 4. As now Keyshawn and Beal are now the 2 lead drivers on the inside. Off of 4, both Keyshawn and Beal move to the middle as here comes Beal to the inside. The 24 has come to 7 laps to go. Well, once again, side by side for the lead into turn number 1 as Rich is down the middle for an RC as Owen Miles briefly touched the yellow line there, but is helping out Beal to the lead on the inside. Once again, one of the drivers on the inside lane, including Nixon, the 20 car, as well as Angie Ruins in the 23. As once again, off turn number 2, your top 3 is going to move up the racetrack with Nixon staying in front of 24 going into turn number 3, with Beal quickly moving to the inside in front of Nixon. And that move from Beal is going to once again cause Miles and the rest of the middle line to lose ground, as here's Calvin Baker to join the rest of his top 3 on the inside going into turn number 4 this time by. Off of 4, once again, your top 3 is going to move to the outside before Beal goes back to the inside, as there's almost absolutely no one behind that 16 to help out. It's come to 6 laps to go this time by. And the 1 will once again 3 wide for the lead, as Keyshawn is going to force both Nixon and Beal up the track, as both those drivers are almost all by themselves. As this all Pontiac top 3 continues to maintain his ground into turn number 2 this time by. Baker is all over the back bumper of Richard going into turn number 3 before the 24 ditches him to go to the inside in front of Owen Miles, as that's going to leave Baker out to dry in the middle. And once again into turn number 4, you see 2 familiar faces throughout the entire day back in this inside lane of Nixon and Beal, as honestly I really feel like Beal, Miles, and Nixon have been the best 3 cars so far here today, but obviously there's still a lot of time left in this race as Richard is going to move to the inside, as that's going to cause Owen Miles to be side by side of him coming to 5 laps to go as they're on board the 20 car Nixon here. And despite Miles briefly being all by himself on the inside, he's going to once again prevail as the middle and outside continue to lose ground into turn number 2. Off for 2, your top 3 of Miles, Beal, and Random. We're going to move to the outside as here's Beal to the inside, the 37, before Miles comes to block into turn number 3, with Miles moving back to the inside once again in front of Random. And once again, the top 3 in this inside lane is going to be nothing but Pontiacs, with Random and Johnson making up the spots. Off of 4, top 4 is going to move to the outside before Miles goes back down to the inside. We have Random in the middle as the 3 wide once again, coming to 4 laps to go. Into turn number 1 with 4 towards the back of the pack as Richard Herman was almost right against the wall at 95, as Johnson now has the lead up front with Random and Miles falling back in the middle. Off of 2, looks like both Johnson and Nixon are going to move up the track before Johnson goes back in front of Beal into turn number 3, with Nixon once again on an inside lane. Into 3, we're once again 3 wide for 3rd, with Random J getting help on the inside from Baker, with Caleb Rose all by himself in that 19. Off of 4, once again, the leaders go to the top, with Nixon going back to the bottom, as he's now going to be side by side of Random, coming to 3 laps to go. 4 wide once again going into turn number 1, with this time Calvin Baker almost running against the wall in that 21, as he's going to lose a lot of ground here. And despite being almost all by himself on the inside, Random J's now in front of the 53, with the rail fan drivers of Rose and Beal following behind. Off for 2, so both Random and Rose moving up the track before Random comes down in front of Beal once again into turn number 3, with Rose and once again that 20 car Nixon getting a great run into the corner there. And you see one of the drivers coming up towards the inside lane is the 18 Brittany Carruthers, a driver who we've barely mentioned throughout this entire day, but he did win this race in 2020 and is looking to snap that long winning streak dating back to last year's season opener on Armory Digital. Could today finally be the day for Brandon to go back to victory lane, as this time by coming to 2 laps to go, Caleb Rose barely leads as he comes down the block Nixon into turn number 1. And as I mentioned him into turn number 1, there's Brandon going 4 wide as well as Owen Miles, as those 2 drivers are going to lose a lot of ground on the outside. In the turn number 2, got a very unique top 3 of a Dodge, Chevy, and Pontiac up front, with 2 of those drivers having yet to win this year, with Rose having yet to win a GSS race. In the 3, Rose is going to go to the outside of the track, where Nixon's going to be all alone in the middle, with Random forcing the issue on the inside, making it 3 wide once again for the lead. And I'd imagine Random right now is loving the view of that rearview mirror, as he has 2 Pontiacs helping behind him with David Johnson, as well as the affiliate teammate of Alex Stevens in the 12. Off of 4, Random has yet to win a Summer Series race this year. Can he finally snap that dry spell? Coming to the white flag. 1 lap to go here at Eight Bowl, as we're once again 3 wide for the lead in the turn number 1. Random's going to get forced to the outside, where Johnson's going to get forced to the middle, making Stevens now the lead driver on the inside. And once again, here comes that 20 of Nixon fast charging, as he has opened the 23 of Angie Williams into turn number 2 for the final time. Down the backseat up ahead, the lap car of Roberto Crown Jr. will he possibly be a factor as the field comes down the backstreet for the final time of Stevens moving to the outside, moving Nixon and David Johnson, the 2 cars on the inside. In the turn number 3, the inside once again prevails with Nixon and Johnson steaming past by the 12 of Stevens. In the 4 for the final time, Nixon has been by far the best driver here today. He's won the pole, he led the most laps, he stayed up front, and now he's going to see the checker flag. Johnson tries to get there, but Nixon is going to win here today at Eight Bowl. Congratulations to Nixon. Albert Motorsports Day, are you winners of the day here at Eight Bowl? And as I said, today was an absolutely dominating performance for that 20 team here today. He won the pole, he led the most laps, he stayed out of trouble, and now he's going to get some fantastic bonus points going into our final 2 GSS races. As now this 20 team is right in the thick of this championship battle. But anyways, let's take a look at the finishing results and point standings after today's race. So here we go. Of course, finishing first today is Nixon, the 20 car, after winning 7 laps today, so it gets maximum bonus points after winning, of course, and winning the most laps. And even though 7 laps may not sound like a lot, generally speaking, the Super Speedway is quite a big deal, with lead changes almost happening every single lap. So again, a big congratulations to that 20 team here today. Finishing second for the second straight Super Speedway race is David Johnson, the 2 car. It's just been so close at both Orlando and here today at Eight Bowl. But regardless, it's still going to be a great point day for that 2 team, as he also came this race barely inside the top 10 in the point standings. Meanwhile, Noah Clift is the highest finishing rookie, finishing 3rd in the 76, where Random J gets a solid 4th place finish in the 53. Finishing 5th is the 16 of Brendan Beal, who's actually the highest placing Dodge, as well as the highest placing Railfan driver. Good run for Alex Stevens today in the 12, as he finishes 6th, while your 2020 champ of Kellen Baker finishes 7th. KO Bros in 19 finishes 8th for today, where Owen Miles gets another good top 10 finish, finishing 9th. And the round-up for the rest of the top 10 is actually only Ford in this top 10 as well, so only Ford to finish inside this top 15, and that's Kyle Salmon in the 38 car. And now for the point standings after race number 20, only 2 races remaining in Golf Summer Series history, with Matt from Net 30 points leader with 592 points. Today we'll extend the gap from Brian Wilson from 2 points on the last race at Minnesota up to 6 points here today. However, unfortunately for both drivers, both had relatively mediocre days today, with Burnett finishing all the way back in 21st, although he did lead 2 laps, while Ryan Wilson finished all the way back in 24th, winning 0 laps. In 3rd place, up 3 positions after his big win today, is Nixon, the 20 car, bought by 17. And even though 17 points does sound like a decent chunk of points, if the cars play right for that 20 team, he could possibly trim that lead down to single digits after Denver. In 4th place is the 23 of Angie Williams, still hanging on in this championship picture by 25 points. In addition as well, Williams has also a 63-point lead over the next closest rookie of Noah Clifton in the 76. And if the cars play right for the 23 team, he could possibly clinch the Rookie of the Year for GSS a race early. Meanwhile, in 5th is Jonah Fords in 61 after he got some damage during today's wreck and is now behind by 32 points, while David Johnson, despite finishing 2nd, is 6th in points by 41. Meanwhile, as for everyone 7th through 10th in the point standings, it's going to be pretty much a must-win situation if they want to contend for a championship at Martinsville, starting with Matthew Hill, who's won by 51 points and remains the only Ford inside his top 10 in the standings. Other drivers also in a must-win situation include Brad Reim, who's down to 8th in points, won by 53 after getting involved in that devastating wreck here today, while behind Random J in 9th is making his first appearance inside the top 10 in the point standings since our first race at Armory Digital back in May, albeit he is behind by 55 points. And speaking of Armory Digital, to round off the rest of our top 10 is the Armory Digital winner of Jordan Stout in the 11, as he's now behind by 56. So next up, race number 21. It's our second to last ever race in the Golf Summer Series, and that will happen at the Denver Motorsports Park for the running of the Coors Light 350, which will be on this channel within the coming days. But as always, y'all, thank you guys for watching this race. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.